Alright, this other one is called The Horrifying Mass Effect. Oh, God. Iceberg Conspiracies Explained. I haven't really watched a lot of these so-called Iceberg videos. But yeah, it's supposed to be about conspiracy theories and stuff. I figured why not. Also, Cassandra was straight. Have you seen that one? Lies. Honestly, yeah. That kind of took me aback when I first played the game. I'm like, I can't romance her as a female? Like, what? Yeah, here we go. Mass Effect Iceberg.
Mass Effect told more than the story of Commander Shepard. It told a story of love, hope, discovery, destruction. But what if I
love the discovery part was
of the
a
Milky
fucking
Way and Andromeda
club.
Galaxies held so many more dark,
God, my eyes.
disturbing, and horrifying secrets.
Frankly Gaming presents
Reaper, a label created by the Protheans to give voice to their destruction. In the end, what they chose to call us is irrelevant. We simply impose order on the chaos of organic evolution. You exist because we allow it, and you will end because we have no beginning. We have no end. We are infinite. Millions of years after your civilization has been eradicated and forgotten, we will endure.
God. Fuck. I miss Mass Effect. Like, it's wild to me that a game that's known for its RPG elements, its romancing elements, its choice-based elements, the whole fighting in space stuff, they made one of the best, creepiest, and horrifying villains in a series I've ever played. They did it so well. Oh my god. The fucking Reapers. Chef's kiss of villains. And the thing, love the Geth. Yeah, I love the Geth. I love evil Geth, and I also especially love good guy Geths. Like little small beans we must protect Geth. Like, I like both sides of them. The Geth did nothing wrong to get me. They're just up there in my top one. Yeah, up there with Handsome Jack. That's a compliment, all right. Okay, tier 1 hope. Yeah, I just felt bad for the Geth.
An iceberg is a deep
when we were
dive
fighting
into
them.
the strangest and most interesting theories on any topic. So today, I wanted to take a look into the Mass
I felt like I was
Effect
fighting
universe,
children that got taken
science
advantage
fiction
of years
worlds
ago.
Ever, where the first tiers of the
Like
iceberg
they were
are
legit
the more
brainwashed as
mundane
children.
and kind-hearted theories. And as we get deeper into my list, we find the most disturbing, interesting, and obscure conspiracies in all of Mass Effect. Many of the side missions in Mass Effect 1 are boring filler that takes us from one barren planet to another to fight the same enemies in the exact same copy-paste interiors.
I mean, there's some of it that's boring, but I honestly found it really
but the ending
enjoyable.
has a huge twist that a lot of players don't know about. You see, the mission tasks a player with going to Earth's moon to stop a virtual intelligence that has gone rogue and taken over an Alliance training facility. After taking down the turrets guarding the base, you make your way into the 3 buildings and fight your way through a barrage of mechs. In each facility, you are tasked with taking down the VI's conduits
driving
in order
in
to
Mass
shut
Effect.
it down.
Jesus
but
Christ.
it is only when destroying the last
That was
conduit
always a trip.
that you get this message. A burst of white noise over all frequencies nearly deafens you. Your hard suit's heads-up display interprets it as a series of zeros and ones. They repeat again and again, blanketing all frequencies, until the lights on the final VI cluster flicker and die. Most players probably stopped here and moved on. But if you actually translate that binary code into ASCII, you get one simple phrase: help.
Oh,
This message
shit.
relayed to you from the virtual intelligence implies early on in the Mass Effect universe that these machines may be capable of organic thought and emotion. Even the note on the quest tab after completing the mission implies that this artificial intelligence has become sentient. And even further, another scene many players miss in Mass Effect 1 shows us once again a rogue AI on the Citadel in the Finance District that threatens Shepard with blowing up now that it has become
God, I remember
sentient.
this.
These two moments lead strong credence to the idea
One time I
that
played, it
synthetics
actually
in the Mass
bugged out
Effect
on me.
universe are more than just mindless machines.
Like, it just
but
automatically
rather
fucking
something
killed me.
much, much deeper. Also, fun side note, that VI that you kill on the moon in Mass Effect 1 actually gets revealed in Mass Effect 2 and 3 to be the original start to EDI, who was later taken over by Cerberus and placed on the Normandy SV2. One of the most beloved DLCs of all time, for all of gaming, not just Mass Effect, was the Mass Effect 3 Citadel DLC. It was the final piece of content
Yeah,
for
I'd
the
say
original
people liked
trilogy,
it.
and allowed players a last chance
Caden,
to
oh my
hang out
God.
with all of those
He
lovable
annoyed the fuck out of me
characters they
in the
grew
first
to
one.
know over the 3 games in one laid-back and whimsical adventure. The DLC has a much different tone than the rest of the entire series.
I was trying to put the
and
moves
while
on
it is a
Liara
nice
and he just
change of
kept
pace,
bugging me. I'm like,
it
God
also
damn it,
feels a
Caden,
little
no.
out of place at times. We meet another clone of Shepard, we share many obscure moments with the characters, and really, in a lot of ways, it just feels too good to be true. And well, that might be because it is. You see, Avina, the virtual intelligence unit on the Citadel that helps Shepard make his way around the complex in all the games, in this DLC specifically has a new line. When asking about Purgatory, the main nightclub on the Citadel, now Avina will start to drone on and on about the Christian conception of purgatory and the afterlife, whereas before she would simply speak about the actual nightclub destination. This moment, along with the weird oddities throughout the DLC, strongly imply that the moments we have here may actually be taking place in the afterlife, following the death of Shepard at the end of Mass Effect 3. Replaying the DLC under this context adds a especially spooky tone and can change entirely how you see and play through it. Another small
play a
tidbit
guy
many
who would have been the
players
space
don't know
racer.
about
Yeah,
the
Ashley.
release of Mass Effect 2 is that originally BioWare intended
I wish
to
they
allow
would have done
players
her
to
character arc
recruit
so much
any
better. They
character
had
to your
such
team
potential
at
to,
any
like,
point during the story.
give her one.
Instead, in the final release, what we actually got were 2 batches of missions for recruiting squad mates, where some
Like, they made
characters like
Caden
Samara only get
a simp
unlocked
for
after doing the
female
Horizon main
Shepard,
mission where you find
and
Ashley
Ashley
Williams.
just
It's
a
interesting to
racist
think
that
about
never
what
redeemed
other
herself.
lines
It was
of
weird.
dialogue and moments we could have seen had we had the chance to take some of these characters on the earlier missions. In fact, for the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, these recorded dialogue scenes and moments were almost added back into the game along with their original design, but it was ultimately decided against. Today, you can experience some of this hidden and forgotten dialogue through modding. For those of you who didn't play Mass Effect Andromeda, one of the more likable squad mates you meet on your journey is a female Turian named Vetra. During some dialogue sequences while driving around planets, we can hear Vetra remark to Drax that she doesn't actually know who her father is. All she gathered from her childhood is that he was a special ops agent who got involved with some shady types before disappearing and leaving the family when she was young. Where this gets interesting, though, is when we dig further into Vetra's past, we learn that her mother was actually a high-ranking military commander, which is specifically notable because that would have given her access to one of the main villains of Mass Effect and one of the youngest Turian Spectres, Saren. You see, Turians usually take the surnames of their respective sex parent, and in Vetra's case, her surname is Nyx, which is also the name of the Greek deity who was literally born from chaos, or in our case, Vetra being born from Saren.
Oh,
On
shit.
top of this, in the Mass Effect Revelations book, which takes place before the events of Mass Effect 1, we learn about Saren's descent into madness, where he went off the grid, which coincides
if they had gone
exactly
see,
with the years Vetra claims her father left her. These implications would mean that we could potentially bang Saren's daughter in Mass Effect Andromeda.
Oh my god,
which
it's
would
always about the
instantly
banging.
make this game so much better for a lot of people.
I mean, to be fair, it would have, yeah. Tier 2 mystery.
The next tier leads us into some stranger and
That would've
less
been-
well-known theories in Mass
Could you
Effect.
imagine if they didn't give up on Andromeda and had actually made that DLC where you could like find out that her dad would have been Saren? Could you imagine? That would have been such a potentially good DLC for Andromeda. I would have loved that.
Ones that can fundamentally change how you view the games and their story. As most of you already know, the story of Andromeda centers around multiple massive ships called arcs that have traveled all the way from the Milky Way galaxy to their neighboring Andromeda. It's later on in the main story of the game that we come to learn that the reason for this initiative in the first place was some sort of contingency plan, allowing most of the advanced races a way of survival should the Reapers succeed in their mission to exterminate all intelligent life in the Milky Way. It's a very cool, if not a little obvious reveal, but more importantly, it then begs the question, why was this not thought of before? In previous Reaper extinction cycles? But you see, that's just the thing. We don't actually know that it wasn't. We can already see examples of previous cycles following the same path to extinction across multiple civilizations working on things like the Crucible. In fact, if anything, the Protheans in their timeline had managed to become even more advanced than the current one Shepard lies in, as they are the ones who finally broke the cycle of the Keepers initiating doom on the Citadel. When we start to think about it logically, it seems very likely over the countless cycles that other civilizations have tried to escape from our Milky Way prison.
Yeah,
and if they were successful,
like I said, Andromeda had
then the
so much
even
potential.
more intriguing thought of what happened to them becomes evident. The Angara and Ket in Andromeda bear striking resemblance to the Protheans in the original trilogy. Could they be descendants from a similar Prothean arc tens of thousands of years ago? And even more interestingly, could these arcs of other long-lost aliens have found out more about the Reapers and the galaxy from far, far away? A potentially intriguing concept for a new Mass Effect to dive into. The Mass Effect universe is full of many interesting and lesser-known species that we don't get to dive into as much detail as many of the Council races. And one of the most obscure examples of this is the Ralloi. Introduced in the final installment of the original trilogy, the Ralloi are a tall bird-like alien species that hail from the planet Terves, which funnily enough we are never able to locate on the galaxy map throughout the series. Originally spotting an Asari cruiser over their home planet, the Ralloi eventually make contact and are introduced to the Citadel, where they were promptly fitted with high-tech spacesuits to protect other races from the avian flu that they promptly started spreading early on.
You can't do that in the Mass Effect games. You gotta
started having discussions
you gotta
with the
play
Council, though,
every single
they
thing.
immediately fled, seeing the incoming Reaper invasion that happens at the start of Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, gotcha.
And all fled back to their homeworld, destroying their satellites and all high-level tech they had developed previously in a final gambit to hope the Reapers would leave them alone and not find them. This is because the Reapers, on their harvest every 50,000 years, only kill sufficiently intelligent organic species, so the Ralloi fled in an attempt to hide and lay low until the next cycle. As to whether the Reapers would have killed the Ralloi had Shepard not succeeded in stopping them, it's hard to say, but it does beg the question of whether any other previous civilizations had been fortunate enough to trick the Reapers. Considering that the Ralloi only just found the Citadel, it may in fact be possible. Either way though, it's sad we never get to see these beautiful bird people in-game. Asari are a common fan favorite Mass Effect alien for reasons.
I wonder
but
why.
What if I told you that Asari don't actually look like this? You see, in a short conversation we can listen in on in Mass Effect 2 on Ilium between a Salarian, Turian, and human, we find out that each species actually sees Asari in their own image. This means that these human-like Asari that we see throughout Mass Effect only look like that because they are mimicking what our brains want to see. As we already know through encounters with Liara in the first game and the Ardok Yashi Morinth in the second, Asari have a strong capability to control the minds of others, making us see and hear things that aren't really there. So this begs the question then, what do Asari actually look like? And could this also be why all Asari are seen as female? As females are commonly regarded as the fairer sex for most alien species in Mass Effect. These implications become scary when we realize that many of our original assumptions about the Asari race could actually just be clever manipulations by them to control us.
I mean, to be fair, they are.
Asari children are always born Asari, regardless of what species they are mated with. So maybe the Asari
I would want to see them what they
Jesus Christ. Race
I would want to see what they would really look like
on the galaxy by tricking other species
but to be fair,
into mating with them.
They haven't actually really hidden the fact that they're manipulative.
However, we do see some Asari statues at their temple in Thessia in Mass Effect 3, and these statues do in fact look like the human-like Asari we're used to. But this could just once again be more manipulation and tech, even on the statues on their home planet. If these theories are true though, that would have some very damning consequences for characters we love like Liara, who may in fact be parasitic, blood-sucking monsters out to take over the whole galaxy. Or I'm just crazy. For those paying very close attention to the original Andromeda marketing campaign, it became apparent early on
because
that some
one
of
their abilities is literally just
explosions that very closely resembled the explosion of the Citadel mass relay at the end of Mass Effect 3.
It makes sense that their species would have this effect on others to attract them.
Transport the Reapers to and from dark space instantaneously. So when it exploded at the end of the trilogy, the resulting blast enveloping the entirety of the Milky Way was not too out of left field. However, the wormhole theory actually postulates that this explosion not only damaged or transformed the entire Milky Way galaxy, but actually ripped a hole in space-time itself and created a massive gravitational well that could have transported many inhabitants to the nearby Andromeda galaxy, for which we see the explosion in the marketing material. To
I think the game devs are just lazy and didn't want to make more than a few models for us, sorry.
We actually see Joker and some of the Normandy squad surviving the Citadel explosion and crash landing on some sort of unknown planet in a jungle. Could this planet actually be the same overgrown jungle planet we see in Mass Effect Andromeda? We may never know for sure. The Rachni are one of the coolest creatures in all of Mass Effect. We originally encounter them in some sort of horror reveal on Noveria in Mass Effect 1, and throughout the series, especially in Mass Effect 3,
honestly, I feel bad for the Rachni.
And potentially helping you take
they
down
kept
the
getting
Reapers.
Screwed over.
Over the entire series, though, the Rachni always stayed shrouded in mystery somewhat, and we never truly find out about their origins, real motives, or entire history in the past. What we do know is that at some point the Rachni were a huge threat to the entire galaxy, prompting the Council to unleash the Krogan warriors on them to finally drive them to extinction. This is actually one of the main drivers for the start of the Genophage as well, as it empowered the Krogan to demand more say in Council politics.
Don't make me get up.
But as to where the Rachni even came from, we have no idea. An egg was found on a derelict ship that was revived at Noveria, and that is about all the info we get. This is where it gets really interesting though. You see, the Rachni Queen in Mass Effect 1 remarks about how her song has been soured, and this has resulted in a problem with her speaking to her children. We learn here that the Rachni Queens actually communicate and control the Horde through some sort of sound waves, and that something has caused this signal to sour. And interestingly, another being in the galaxy we know that responds to signals is actually the Keepers on the Citadel, who respond to the Reaper's signal to originally help them teleport through a mass relay on the Citadel. So could it be that the Rachni were being affected by this Reaper signal? And if they were, could this mean that they have some sort of connection to the Reapers? Maybe the Reapers were using them as some sort of help to keep the galaxy weak enough for their eventual arrival. This potentially got further clarification as well in the Mass Effect 3 Leviathan DLC, where it is implied by an Alliance scientist that the Rachni in fact may have been controlled by the Leviathans as a plan from them to stop the Reapers, and that the Reaper signal could have disrupted their control.
Like I said, they got screwed over. Tier 3
Next
death.
up, our third tier thrusts us into some of the most obscure and interesting theories in all of Mass Effect that many players may not know about or are chilling to the core. The Thorian is one of the coolest moments in all of Mass Effect, something not uncommon for the first game. The creatures originally found near the Exogeny headquarters on Pharos, a planet you travel to in the first game in order to check out a Geth invasion that is happening there. After fighting through hordes of Turn colonists that have mutated into some sort of zombie creature, you eventually find your way to the culprit, a massive space alien referred to as the Thorian. You learn that the Thorian has actually existed for an unimaginable amount of time, even before the Protheans, and that it holds the key known as a cipher to understand the Prothean beacon you unlocked earlier in the game. This is because
this
the
is the
Thorian
one.
devours and obtains knowledge from its victims.
This is the
as
one
well as
where
controlling them completely. And by devouring
the mission where we
Protheans
had to
tens
like
of thousands of years ago, it gained the same abilities
save the
that the
civilians
Protheans once had. It's a cool concept on paper, but the
or
craziest
whatever.
part about all of this is that we never
Like, we had to
see
gas
the
them,
Thorian
basically.
again. We simply leave
I remember having
Pharos
to do
with
it
our
multiple
newfound
times.
knowledge, and for the rest of the series, that is the last we ever see of the Thorian at all.
because I played
This is
Paragon, so I
especially
wanted to save him. I didn't
because
want to
not
fucking
only
kill him.
does this Thorian seem to have some sort of indoctrination ability, akin to the Reapers and Leviathans, but it also starts to make us ask questions like, how did the Thorian survive so many Reaper cycles and invasions? It's obviously a highly intelligent organic being, so shouldn't it already be wiped out? The only other major species we know of that survived this long is the Leviathans, but at least from them we get some answers in the Mass Effect 3 DLC. For the Thorian, we never get anything, which makes this mystery all the more interesting, because even from just the
Never
short
thought about it,
moment we had
actually.
with this being in the first game, it's quite obvious that the Thorian is one of the most powerful creatures in all of Mass Effect, and that it may be hiding some very dark and sinister secrets that could further shed light on what is really happening in the Milky Way all this time. One of the coolest features of every Mass Effect game is the galaxy map. It allows players to not only traverse their way to new systems and planets, but also to simply read up on a lot of lore on the places we get to go. Most of the time, this lore is pretty basic and uneventful filler that tells some basic background story of what's happening on this planet. But two specific planets in the series have a much more interesting background.
Who win this Twitter raffle?
The first one's from Mass Effect 3,
What Twitter
called Ploba.
raffle?
Scans reveal that there is a baffling amount of strange and
Would she
giant
be entering?
megastructures on the surface that are too regular in pattern to be explained away as standard geography. Many scientists have suggested that Ploba may in fact be a planet-sized supercomputer being housed in these
damn.
megastructures, or a Reaper hiding ground used to indoctrinate nearby species. Either way, we may never know. The next planet is Logan from Mass Effect 1.
To give
Similar
away
to
for,
Ploba, this gas
Final
giant was
Fantasy,
surveyed by
put the
scientist
character theme
teams,
back.
and it was
Nice.
discovered that several large
Good
and
luck.
distinct objects were on the surface of the planet. However, even more horrifying in this case, the objects always immediately disappeared out of thin air when observed, and no answers or ideas have yet been brought forth as to what has happened with this phenomenon. Similar to the Ralloy, the virtual aliens are another species that we only hear very briefly about in Mass Effect 3. But this time, they have an even more horrifying and interesting backstory that is quite unique to the Mass Effect universe. You see, the virtual aliens,
your fave
whose
little
name we
meow
still
meow
do
thing?
not
Oh my
know,
God.
hail from an unknown planet, either near the edge of the Milky Way or just outside of it, and they were facing a mass extinction event. The virtual aliens' nearby sun was close to going supernova, and in order to preserve themselves and their future, they created a hyper-advanced and massive spaceship, where over 1 billion individuals uploaded their consciousness on board in order to preserve resources and ensure survival. The ship was controlled by artificial intelligence that eventually drove this massive freighter into Solarian space, where first contact was made. The council swiftly decided to help the virtual aliens, whose ship was running low on power and they were on the verge of extinction because of it. To do so, 400 volunteers from Citadel Space were sent to the ship where they swapped their bodies to join into the Matrix-like computer simulation that all the virtual aliens were currently living in. In exchange, one virtual alien was able to take over every body for each of the hosts in the universe in order to communicate with the council. The aliens expressed their desire to come back to the real world, but that is really where the story stops. And as to what lies in the future for the virtual aliens, we don't know. What we do know, though, is that this is an amazing idea for a potential Mass Effect sequel, and meeting virtual aliens who have taken over host bodies after living in a simulation for their entire lives is the kind of story that we get so excited about in this universe.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that would be.
I really want to see where this story goes, and I hope it gets expanded on
more
in the
into.
future. The Keepers are one of the most mysterious beings that we meet in our entire time in the Mass Effect games. They're the strange little guys on the Citadel that keep it pristine and in good condition. And as we learn at the end of Mass Effect 1, they are also the ones who activate the Citadel mass relay to try and let the Reapers into Council space. In multiple games, we are also able to try and study the Keepers more, but find no answers. They are harboring a peculiar genetic makeup, and seem not to respond in any way to others on the Citadel, simply working on tasks that sometimes seem unclear. One of the most damning scenes in the original trilogy, though, is actually something we see in the Shadow Broker DLC for Mass Effect 2. You see, after defeating the Shadow Broker and instilling Liara with her new duties as the galaxy's most well-involved benefactor, you get the chance to look through some of the old files that the Shadow Broker had that were classified as top secret and have huge lore implications. Some of these show scenes of espionage early in the previous games or big reveals for certain characters. But the most peculiar videotape we see is nothing more than a Keeper locked away in a small room. So what is this Keeper on the videotape hiding? Where is this facility? And what exactly is going on here? It's the only one of the videotapes that needs more explanation than simply what we see on screen. You see, these files and tapes are only for the most important and top secret things throughout the galaxy, so there must be more going on here than meets the eye. But this is all we get, and because of that, the mystery begins to get even bigger. Are there people that have discovered the true nature of the Keepers?
I love how we're just continuing to watch these.
What does it all mean? Elitania is a planet we travel to in Mass Effect 1 after getting the mission UNC
that little thing
Lost
in that,
Module, where Admiral
little
Hackett
room
informs
that is
us
a little,
an Alliance
just a
probe
tiny
has
bit
gone
weird.
missing on the planet's surface, and we need to retrieve its data core. It seems like a pretty routine mission. And for the most
driving
part,
that thing,
it
I
is.
swear to God.
You land on the planet,
I'm having
fight some bad
flashbacks.
guys, and get your data core. What some players may have missed, though, is that Elitania is actually hiding a lot more than meets the eye. You see, when you first land on the planet, you're able to see an anomaly marked on your minimap, which, if tracked down, turns out to be a mysterious Prothean ruin. A large sphere suspended in air, surrounded by a structure of some sort.
Yeah, I remember this. I think I did this one.
And after approaching the object and decrypting it, we are met with this text. Raising a hairy fist, you shake your spear at it in anger, and the creature rises up quickly until it disappears from view. With a satisfied grunt, you make your way back to your caves and the rest of your tribe. You fall into the familiar pattern of life.
I remember being like
food,
so confused.
The struggle to claim and keep a mate. The battles against other tribes that would claim your territory. Days roll into nights and back into days. Each time you rise from sleep, there is a sensation that you are not alone, that some other is with you, sharing all you see, hear, and feel.
Come on now, I'm crossing all my fingers for you.
Your hand goes to the strange lump on the back of your skull, and you remember the silver creature in the sky. The air grows colder, winter falls. You must range farther for food, clutching the furs tight against you to ward off the chill. It is on one of these long hunts that the strange bird returns. You hear it before you see it. Its call a deafening roar as it descends from above, swooping down onto you. A single great eye opens on the underbelly, a glowing red orb. You try to run, but a finger of red light
There's like
extends
over
from the eye and
3,000
engulfs
retweets.
you, and all goes
So you got a
black
chance.
again. You wake an instant later to find yourself on Elitania, lying on your back, the Prothean artifact
nice
looming
bag.
above you undamaged, and your companions standing over you. They help you
Not
to
really
your feet,
my style,
puzzled.
but
There was a flash of light, and you just sort of
It's
toppled
done
over,
really
one
nice.
explains. Are you okay, Shepard? The other asks. You don't answer right away, wondering at the implications of what you have seen. The memories of a Cro-Magnon hunter, captured by an implanted Prothean data recorder. How long did they study the primitive humans, observing them and analyzing the results at their base on Mars? And what, if anything, did they leave for us? The vision Shepard has shows that the Protheans were in fact watching us even as primates, and they were not destroyed in their cycle because we had not become sufficiently intelligent enough as a species. In fact, that red light seen in the vision may actually have been our first encounter with a Reaper ever, and foreshadows our doom later in the series, before we even know what is going on. An awesome revelation that many fans of the series probably completely missed.
yeah, I remember finding that in the game and being so confused about it. Tier 4, hell.
Finally, our last
Okay.
tier gives us a glimpse into the most maddening and
Most ironic 'cause
horrifying
it's Christmas
theories
themed.
in
Okay.
all of Mass Effect. The theories
Like a
that
collector's
can
item, I
entirely
guess?
change our perception of its universe, its characters, and its meaning. It's well known by now that many fans
Honestly, I'd be
didn't like the
afraid,
ending
like,
of the
even if it was
original
my
Mass
style,
Effect trilogy.
I'd be afraid
All
to
of
use
the
it.
decisions we
like-
made and relationships we formed didn't
Afraid
matter
I'd like
in
mess
the
it up
end.
some way.
Instead, it all came down to three choices.
You have like one Final
Red,
Fantasy piece of
blue, green.
Must have
For
more.
people like me, the green ending was the
Oh
best.
God, the
I
endings.
already did a video about that. But more importantly, maybe this ending was actually what made the most sense for the series as a whole. You see, at the end of Mass Effect 3, the Crucible has finished construction, and Shepard is able to use it to destroy all synthetic life, organic life, or combine us into a new being entirely. Right before the choice, though, we are met with a catalyst, a mirage of a boy Shepard has been seeing throughout the game in his nightmares, that tells us it is an artificial intelligence that controls the Reapers.
Yeah, we
The
look a little
Catalyst
beat
is
up at the end of the
mastermind
game.
behind the
Look a little
cycles
beat
of
up.
destruction, and was created by the Leviathans to protect them before
You
it
take it
turned
to like a
against
Karn
them,
or something. Yeah.
as it saw this betrayal as the only way to actually
I'd still be
preserve
worried
all
though.
organic
Like
life.
I'd be anxious the entire time.
The Catalyst argues that all organic life eventually makes synthetics, artificial
you're not
intelligence,
using your
in order
impact.
to improve their lives. But it is through this very process of improvement that these synthetics must eventually become more capable than their creators, which inevitably leads to destruction and chaos, as we have already seen turned proof multiple times in this series. This gets even more intriguing though when we ask the Catalyst about the Crucible. The Mastermind is very knowledgeable about what it is, what it does, and how it works. But when we ask further, we simply are told it's too complicated to delve into for now. For a mastermind and evil AI, this seems fishy to not give full context, where before we were given absolute certainty on all our answers. And maybe this is for a reason. Because maybe the Crucible wasn't something the organics over multiple cycles created to finally stop the Reapers. In fact, maybe it was actually just another trick from the Catalyst. You see, the Catalyst Prime Directive, the reason it was created in the first place was to protect organic life at all costs. And as far as we know, this is still the Intelligence's main goal today. So what if the plans for the Crucible were actually left by the Catalyst? What if the Catalyst realized that the only way to save organics from their own destruction was to eventually have them join together with synthetics as one? The Crucible isn't our
I
salvation.
mean, that's one way to look at it.
It's a test. A test to see if organisms over millions of years of cycles of destruction at the hands of the Reapers can finally ascend into something bigger than themselves. It would perfectly explain these cycles from the Reapers. It was all actually a sort of trial to force organics down the path to synthesis, the green ending. Shepard is nothing more than the final conclusion of these cycles, the hero of his time that hopefully from the Catalyst perspective, is finally ready to make the correct decision, the synthesis ending to join all organic and synthetic life. And it is in this final moment that the Catalyst gives full control back to its creators to make that decision. After all, only if Shepard actually chooses the synthesis ending does it indicate through all the Catalyst's work that organics are finally ready to ascend and remove themselves from the shackles of doom that bind them. It explains the weird dreamlike sequences in the ending, and also explains why no Reapers are directed to stop Shepard at the Catalyst, as there are many flying by.
Shepard and Anderson been through some shit.
The Catalyst allows this to happen because this was the plan all along. It's planned to do what it was originally created to do. Save all organic life at any cost. Piggybacking off the idea of the Catalyst and the Crucible, we actually hear about these beings even earlier on in the story.
And this video has got me thinking about Mass Effect.
Many fans don't know about.
So
as
deeply.
Early as in Mass Effect 1, players can find a codex entry on a planet called Glencory, which is owned by a Volus billionaire named Kuman Shoal. The codex entry explains that Shoal was shown a vision of higher beings made of light on his planet that explained to him that the other lost crypts of beings of light were on the planet and that they were created to protect organic life at all costs against the synthetic machine devils. The reason this entry is so weird is because at first glance it seems to be referring to the same beings that the Catalyst is, the supposed artificial intelligence that was created by the Leviathans that created the Reapers. But if that is the case, why did these beings of light tell Shoal that they are trying to protect us from the machine devils? Could this be further proof that the Catalyst is in fact the good guy of the main story, and that synthesis is the correct ending? Maybe these beings of light, the Catalyst, is in fact ultimately trying to defend humanity against the Reapers, and is merely using them as a tool for our salvation. If that is not the case, then this mystery becomes even weirder, as it would imply that there are more Catalyst-like creatures that are pulling the strings behind the Mass Effect universe at all times, almost like the gods of ancient Greece and Rome. One theory I have as well is that this could potentially have been the original idea for the main story, but later on BioWare reworked the idea for beings of light into the Catalyst ending. Either way, it's cool to see from this theory that some of the other previous ones on this list match up, and how much planning and foresight went into creating this amazing universe, even from just the onset of the first game. The indoctrination theory might actually be the most well-known theory in all of Mass Effect. It originally gained popularity after a YouTuber released his theory video almost a decade after the conclusion of Mass Effect 3. It argues that at some point either in Mass Effect 3, towards the end of the first game, or after Shepard's death in the second, our player character has actually become indoctrinated by the Reaper's powers. This explains why the ending sequence of Mass Effect 3 is so strange. Many players notice that the entire last fight sequence, fighting a Reaper, taking on the Elusive Man, and eventually talking to the Catalyst at the Crucible, seems very out of place and almost dreamlike.
He kind of did, yeah.
That at this point, Shepard has become fully indoctrinated by the Reapers and Catalyst power, and is simply imagining things or speaking directly to the Catalyst through his subconscious. We have seen multiple characters throughout the story of Mass Effect that were taken over by the powers of indoctrination, most notably Saren in the first game, but even many side characters as well. Mind control is a key talking point of the Mass Effect franchise, and the indoctrination theory ties perfectly into this. It could fit into the Crucible and Synthesis endings, as it could potentially
be looking rough in this
that the Catalyst has started to mind control Shepard into making the correct choice. It could also mean, as the theory originally states, that the Reapers and Catalysts are actually trying to indoctrinate Shepard into choosing something like synthesis instead of destruction. But I buy very little into this, as the Catalyst could have simply sent the Reapers to stop Shepard on the Crucible, as well as a multitude of other reasons, like the destruction ending actually making no sense in the first place. Destroying the Reapers accomplishes nothing, as a future organic civilization would eventually create artificial intelligence that turns against
Miss
them
Nyla.
again and again, as we have already seen repeated in endless cycles. Also, another fun fact is the indoctrination theory could potentially explain the Paragon and Renegade system throughout the series. The reason Shepard is able to influence so many people and events in the universe is because he is in fact indoctrinated by the Reapers, and thus has some of their powers of influence. Even more interestingly, if we take this theory to its limits, it is also possible that Shepard is not being indoctrinated by the Reapers or the Catalysts, but rather by the Leviathans or Thorian instead, as he has had an encounter with both, and we know both have the ability to mind control subjects,
just a little
like
too
the
soon,
Reapers.
yeah.
Either way, it seems quite clear that there's a very high likelihood that Shepard's decisions at the end of the Mass Effect trilogy may not actually be his very own. Yet another theory that potentially ties all of these grand theories of Mass Effect together is the dark energy theory. This theory postulates that Tali's loyalty mission in Mass Effect 2 is actually a warning of the real danger in the Milky Way, the one the Reapers and the Catalysts are trying to protect us from. In the mission, it is heavily implied that the dying star Hailstrom was actually so close to going supernova because of the events of dark energy.
Like, I have a feeling his story would have been a fucking interesting as
Drew
hell.
Capison at BioWare and some of his team members who have left BioWare have actually heavily implied that this was originally the plan for the ending of Mass Effect. A reveal that the Reapers were killing civilization every 50,000 years in order to stall and find a way to stop this spread of dark energy from large Mass Effect fields and EZO. If this were in fact true, that would mean the Reapers are truly the good guys of the original trilogy.
Oh damn, that would have been fucked up.
They were simply trying to find a way to save all organic life from their inevitable death at the hands of dark energy swallowing
So they literally would have been like
whole.
killing people in order to save them.
The final theory on my list, and potentially also the most interesting. One that not only ties everything we have talked about together, but also the theory of what the next Mass Effect game will be about. I actually already made a video about this a long time ago, but I want to briefly touch on and elaborate more on this idea. You see, currently we have no idea where the next Mass Effect game is going, but I have a theory that I hope becomes true, because it would tie everything together so perfectly. You see, what if the Catalysts and the Reapers, like we've been speaking about, were the good guys? What if they were truly trying to protect all organic life, as they were originally created to do? What if there was dark energy close to destroying life as we know it? And what if the Reaper cycle was ultimately building towards humanity choosing synthesis and combining with synthetics to become a new and all-powerful being that could solve this issue?
I think that's what a lot of people want, is like
in the Mass Effect Next trailer, the
go
actual
full
decision Shepard
RPG
chose
mode
was
and
destruction.
like be able to create your own character.
In the trailer, we see multiple destroyed mass relays, and even a dead Reaper and derelict Reaper on an icy planet. So what if Shepard made a mistake and chose destruction, thus ruining the plan set forth by the Reapers to save us? This would open up the potential for a new game, where we slowly discover that Shepard made this grave mistake, our hero, and that our biggest threat all along was this dark energy that was only alluded to in the second game briefly. A plot point that the Mass Effect team, we know for a fact, had originally intended to include. The game could open with us in a galaxy that has been rebuilt after the destruction of all synthetics. Some fringe groups would be outlawed from Alliance space because of work on new AI systems, and there would be multiple new races that have now had the time to develop after the Reapers' failed invasion. The main story could center around a new character, or Shepard Reborn, slowly uncovering this true threat in the galaxy and finding a way to stop it. This could even tie into Andromeda and the Scourge. You see, in Andromeda, there was a strange mythical substance that was taking over entire planets and killing them, called the Scourge. and we never really learn what that actually is. Could it be
See,
that the
that would have been a
Scourge
good
is
DLC for
really
Andromeda.
dark energy? Could it be Andromeda was a warning to all of us what the true villain of the series was? This would imply that dark energy was not only potentially dooming the Milky Way, but all galaxies and the entire universe.
It would have been
with it.
such a
What
good
if the next
DLC.
Mass Effect game told the
to go
story
into
of
that.
the Milky Way being rebuilt, of new and fantastical stories and races to discover, and of the discovery that Shepard was wrong, that our hero was actually the biggest villain, and that we must now figure out how to stop the Scourge, the dark energy, from killing us all. This journey could take us to the edges of the Milky Way into dark space, where we could potentially find that ark that was lost in Andromeda and never found. It could lead us to finding still alive Reapers drifting derelict in dark space. And it could eventually lead us to finding a solution with the help of our sworn enemies to save not just the Milky Way this time, but the entire galaxy as we know it. Mass Effect is one of my most beloved franchises of all time, and it's easy to see why. The universe is so rich with intrigue and lore, and the characters we meet and moments we have with them will live on with us forever, as well as the many questions that this series leaves us with. I'm excited for the next Mass Effect, not because of next-gen graphics, better gameplay, or a new cast of characters, but because we finally get to dive into this amazingly deep and interesting world that has so many more stories to be told and conspiracies to be had. As always, thanks for watching and supporting the channel. It really does mean a lot. And let me know down below what theories you guys really like
all
for
that
Mass
stuff's
Effect that
nice,
I didn't
like,
include,
you know,
and what you're interested in
graphics,
to see
better
from me
gameplay,
next, potentially in another
like all that
Iceberg
stuff.
conspiracy theory video. I really
new
do enjoy doing
characters,
these
like,
for you guys.
yeah,
They do take a lot of time though.
That'll
But
be
as
interesting.
Always, thank you.
But the main thing for me about Mass Effect was always the story. And yes, before you say anything, Phoenix, the whole the whole Barbie makeout scenes and shit and love interests and all that. But I really did fall in love with the Mass Effect series stories. Like, even, like I said, like I keep saying, even Andromeda had so much potential. Even Andromeda had so much potential. It was just... I really wish they didn't give up on Andromeda. It could have gone so far. Not playing Mass Effect for the shooty bang bangs. Yeah, right? I'm gonna be honest. Like, when I first played the Mass Effect series, my main thing was always like the story. I always wanted to know more. I always wanted to find out about the characters we knew and loved or didn't know and found out about. I always wanted to find out about planets. I always wanted to find out about these characters we never really meet. But there's always like at least little tidbits we'd find. Like, that shit interested me. If your RPG has a bad story, then why play? Very true. Yep. That's why I said, like, no matter how Mass Effect 3's ending was going to go, I was always going to be sad about it. Because they had said Mass Effect 3 was going to be the last. Technically, they said last for Shepard's story, but that implied it was going to be the last Mass Effect ever. So it was going to have me really upset no matter what they did with the ending. Still pissed about the fucking ammo. Yeah, they flip-flopped and did shit with the ammo. I don't... Revenge for Morden. Justice for Morden. Hashtag justice for Morden.